Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a stark warning, declaring that the potential delivery of U.S. Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine would represent a whole new level of escalation. Speaking at a forum in Sochi, Putin said such a move would not alter the battlefield dynamics, where Russia claims its army is making slow but steady advances. However, he stressed that supplying these long-range missiles would severely strain Moscow's already tense relations with Washington. Despite the rhetoric, US officials have cast doubt on the feasibility of providing Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. According to Reuters, current US inventories of cruise missiles are committed to the Navy and other military uses. The Tomahawk, with a range of 2,500 kilometers, would offer Kyiv a significant capability to strike deep inside Russian territory. These were the same missiles that turned the tide during the Iraqi invasion in 2003, as these missiles decimated the Iraqi defenses. Anyways, one US official and 3 sources said it was unlikely these weapons would be diverted. Instead, Washington is reportedly exploring alternative options, including permitting European allies to purchase and transfer other long-range systems to Ukraine. While missiles may be off the table, the US appears ready to increase its intelligence support. Several media outlets reported that Washington will provide Kyiv with targeting information on long-range energy infrastructure inside Russia. If confirmed, this would mark the first major policy shift by President Donald Trump since he remarked in late September that Ukraine could win back all of its occupied territory. Such intelligence sharing would greatly expand Ukraine's ability to disrupt Russian logistics and energy supplies far from the front lines. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy also used a European summit in Copenhagen to deliver a stark warning of his own. Addressing 45 European leaders, Zelenskyy said recent drone incursions into Denmark, Estonia, and Poland were clear signs that Moscow seeks to escalate the war beyond Ukraine's borders. If the Russians dare to launch drones against Poland or violate the airspace of northern European countries, it means this can happen anywhere, Zelenskyy warned. He offered to share Ukraine's battlefield expertise in counter-drone warfare, underscoring his call for Europe to prepare against the growing aerial threat. Meanwhile, Putin doubled down in Sochi, accusing the West of pushing Europe into dangerous militarization. He dismissed fears that Russia might directly attack NATO as nonsense, but insisted that Moscow would respond to what he described as aggressive moves by Europe. We are closely monitoring the escalating militarization of Europe. We simply cannot ignore what is happening. We have no right to do so for reasons of our own security, Putin said. He warned that Russia's countermeasures will not be long in coming. On the ground in Ukraine, the war continues to batter civilian infrastructure. Emergency crews worked through Thursday to restore power in northern regions after overnight Russian attacks on the grid. Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal said electricity was fully restored in 2 parts of Sumy region, which lies on the border with Russia, while repairs were ongoing in Chernihiv. More than 300,000 people in Chernihiv had been left without electricity after the strikes. Amid the violence, there was one moment of relief, another major prisoner exchange between Russia and Ukraine. President Zelenskyy announced that 185 Ukrainian military personnel and 20 civilians, many of whom had been in captivity since 2022, had returned home. Russia confirmed that 185 of its soldiers and 20 civilians were also released. Since the start of the war in February 2022, Zelenskyy said more than 7,000 Ukrainians have been freed from Russian detention through negotiated swaps. This week's developments highlight the complex and dangerous balancing act at play. With Putin warning of new levels of escalation, Washington weighing expanded intelligence support, Europe bracing for possible drone incursions, and both sides continuing prisoner exchanges, the war remains locked in a cycle of military, political, and humanitarian crises.